Maryland basketball picks up two key guards in the portal.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And I'm also doing work at InsideBlackandGold.net. So make sure you guys head over to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Maryland basketball picks up two key players in the transfer portal and two key guards that I think are going to be a big part of what we do next year. So Buzz Williams has continued to start to fill out this Maryland roster, and it's really starting to come together. And I'll give my opinion on the overall kind of way the roster looks in the second segment, but we're really starting to see kind of where the Maryland basketball roster lies. We're starting to see kind of who potentially could be our guys next year, who has a high ceiling, all those different things we're starting to be able to see. And I think our guard play is something that I don't want to say it's complete, but we are definitely getting into a spot where we have a solid guard rotation. I don't think we have anyone too crazy at the guard position or anyone too proven like last year, like a Gillespie. Like we don't have a guy like that yet, but we have a bunch of really solid guys. And this team is shaping up, I think, to be a little bit deeper than a team than we had last year. I don't think it's going to be as star heavy or we're going to have a crab five type of thing, but I think we're going to be a lot deeper. And over the past couple of days, we've done a really good job of using the portal and getting guard play that I think is going to be really good. I want to start off with a kid I think is going to be a fan favorite that Buzz Williams brought in from Kansas last year. David Coit from Kansas, a guard. He is on the smaller side at 5'11", 175 pounds. He's definitely a small kid. Last year for Kansas wasn't anything too crazy, but definitely had an impact on that team, definitely did some good things for that team throughout the season. And I think he can really help us next year. He had some big games for Kansas this year. And when they had a 6-point loss against Houston, he was one of the better players for Kansas with 14 points. He had a 15-point game against Oklahoma State, 12-point game against UCF. He had a 14-point game against Missouri. Like he had some big games without being a starter for most of the year. And so I think he's a guy that could come in. He's played a lot of basketball at this point, and I do think he's a good pickup for Maryland basketball. The interesting part about him is before Kansas, he was a really good player at NIU, averaged 20 points per game in 2023, 2024 at NIU, and then in 2022, 2023, averaged 15.5 points per game. So at Kansas, he wasn't the star, and he learned how to play his role, and he did a really good job of that, averaging 5 points a game. He shot 38% from three, which was a career high, 75% from the free throw line. Didn't do anything crazy, but he learned how to play a role at Kansas. While at NIU, he was the star of the team. He took a lot of shots. He was a lead guard. He was their best player for the 24 season and the 2022-2023 season. He was their best player. So he's learned how to play on two completely different teams with two completely different roles. And that's a reason why I really like this pickup, because it puts the Terps in a spot to get a guy in David that we don't know exactly probably what his role is going to be. We don't know how good he's going to be for Maryland basketball. He could potentially really help us and put us in a really good spot, or he potentially could not help us or not. I don't want to say not help us. He could potentially, let me reframe how I said that. He could potentially be a starter and one of our leaders in terms of scoring and assists, or he could be a role player. But I know he's experienced both sides of things, so I think that's going to put him in a really good spot to potentially succeed for Maryland basketball. And when you can get guys that have experience, that have played different roles, played in the Big 12 at Kansas last year, so he played against good people. He also played with good people, and I think he's probably ready after having kind of not a down year, but a year that was less intense from what he was doing. I think he's probably ready to kind of break out, if you will, and allow himself to show I can play at a high level. I can do some really special things. And when you watch him play, I'm telling you, this kid's going to be a fan favorite. There's a story about him being a pizza delivery guy for a while, which I thought was interesting. I don't know exactly that story, didn't do too much digging into that, but there's some type of story about him delivering pizzas and stuff too. So I do think this guy's a chance to be a fan favorite. Like I said, he's a small type of guard, but I do really like the kid's game. He's shifty, he can get a shot. He's going to be a guy that we really like, I think, at Maryland, and he has a chance to have, I think, a pretty good year in the Big Ten, and is going to be one of our more experienced players that's on the team. And I do like kind of bringing in a guy like this. He's shifty. He can handle the ball. He gets the spots. Like, he's going to be a fun type of watch for Maryland basketball, and I really think he'll be a fan favorite for the Terps. I think a lot of people will like David Coy. I really like his game, and I like the experience that he brings to a Maryland team where we're going to need a leader, and I think he potentially could be that. He could be a guy that he always brings energy. He's been doing that, but I think he can be a leader in terms of we're going to have a bunch of new guys and a random team, not a random team assembled, but a bunch of guys that weren't in the same recruiting class, didn't come up together in terms of freshmen, sophomores, and you got to put it together, and you might need a leader of that group. And that's why I really like this pickup in David Coy, and I do think he's going to be a good player for Maryland basketball. And then the next player that we brought in, I also really like, and it's almost for the opposite reason of David. And so when these two portal pickups came out, I was like, this is perfect. We get an experienced guy in David, like I talked about, that can lead our team, that can be a guy for a year, that can be a shifty, hardworking energy, can play any role. And then we also get this kid, Andre Mills, who comes from Texas A&M, of course, has that Buzz Williams connection at Texas A&M. I'm really excited about him because he was a redshirt freshman, or redshirted last year, so he still has all 4 years of eligibility, and he redshirted at Texas A&M, I think, because I guess I don't know exactly why. I know they had some talented guards. Maybe that's why. So potentially Buzz Williams was like, hey, you should use this year. Whatever the case is, he decided to stay with Buzz. He decided to stay with them or stay with that coach. And that tells me a lot. Usually when a coach redshirts you, you might be like, oh, nah. It tells you a lot and tells you that he trusts Buzz Williams. And I don't know exactly the conversations that they had, but it's clear that it wasn't like, oh, Buzz didn't think he was going to be a good player, so he redshirted him and tried to give him a lot of time to get better. I think this was the case for Texas A&M. Buzz Williams liked his guards, and he said, we can redshirt you and we can get 4 good years out of you, or whatever the case is. And he followed Buzz. So that tells me his relationship with Coach Buzz Williams is really good. And that's a really important part of this. You want guys coming in that love our coach, that want to be a part of this Maryland program. And he sounds like that. But maybe the most exciting part about Andre Mills and what he can bring is he was a 4-star guard, 6'4" shooting guard from Boston. And I think that's really exciting part of it, that he's a 4-star top 100 player that we get out of the portal that Buzz brings with him. I think that's really, really exciting for us because of his talent level. He's got 4 years as a 4-star player left, and who knows what he can become. We know these guys don't always live up to the expectations. We know these people don't always live up to kind of where we want them to be, but he has a chance to be able to do this. And I've heard he's a really high-end athlete, and hopefully his skills developed while he was at Texas A&M. But anytime you get a 4-star player that already got a year of practicing with and being in a college weight room and being around a university for an entire year, that's really exciting. So I'm excited about the future of Andre being a 4-star rated recruit, top 100 guy. I think he can really help the Terps, and just another guard. And now we have a good amount of guards that I'm excited about. I'm excited about Miles Rice. I'm excited about David. I think David's really going to be fun to watch. And then I don't really know. I'll be honest. I don't know what this Andre kid looks like. I don't know how good of a player he is. I don't really know the deal is, but I know that I think he's going to have a chance to be a really good player. In high school, he averaged 30 points a game, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. So it's definitely an interesting player. He initially picks Texas A&M over BC, Iowa, and Providence. So we'll see exactly. I do like kind of his I like his youth. I like bringing in a guy that has a lot of time left. And I do think it's going to be something that really helps the Terps in the future. And he'll be part of the rotation next year. And we'll see how much he's grown. We'll see if being around a guy like Wade Taylor at Texas A&M has helped him. We'll see exactly how he is, but I do think this was a good pickup for the Terps, and I really like these 2 guard additions, and I think this roster is starting to grow, and we're starting to see it kind of develop into what it's going to be next year. It's going to be really weird having an entire year of the Crab 5 to something that looks like it's going to be a completely different. I think we're going for more of a depth of way of things, and we're looking at rather kind of think about what Michigan State was last year. I think we're going towards more of that, where we have like 8, 9 guys that can play at a really high level, maybe not a bunch of stars, but we're going to talk about more of that next. Why I do still have a little bit concern about our current roster makeup. What do I think about it? We'll talk overall thoughts next. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets in the same game parlay for a chance to win big. You guys have to go over to FanDuel right now. You can bet on stuff like the Masters, the NBA playoffs are coming up, the NHL playoffs are coming up, or you can put in future bets for the NFL. There's so many different things you guys can do on FanDuel. So make sure you guys head over to FanDuel. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. So I like the 2 guard pickups, and I like what Buzz Williams is doing in the portal, but I'd be lying if I said I'm not concerned about how this offseason is going a little bit in terms of next year. I do want to say this. I kind of don't know what to expect in terms of my expectations for the team next year. First, I was like, we shouldn't expect much at all. If we make the tournament, that's just a plus. But this is going to be a rebuilding year for Buzz Williams. But then I'm also like, this is Maryland. Like, we got to try and do something. We got to try and get to the tournament. All these different things that you kind of want to feel like. But at the same time, you do got to give your coach time to rebuild. You do got to give your coach time to develop the roster, to bring in recruiting classes, to get guys in the portal that he really wants and not have to replace a whole roster of 15 guys. You do have to give your coach a chance to be able to do that. And I like the way that Coach Buzz Williams is kind of getting guys. I like the way that we're going about things. But there also is a world where I'm looking at this roster, I'm looking at the guys that we bring in, and it's just not kind of the high-end caliber of players that we got last year. It just isn't. We don't have a star. We don't have a 2-star. We don't have a guy that you feel awesome about. You just don't. You have a bunch of guys that have, I think, a high ceiling. Like, let me explain what I mean by high ceiling. Like, I think Miles Rice has a really high ceiling as a Big Ten guard, but I also don't know if he's going to hit that ceiling. Last year at Indiana, what did he average? Around 10 points a game, but he showed flashes of being the best scorer on their team at times. And then at Washington State was a really good player, averaged nearly 15 points a game, but are you going to be able to get that at Maryland, or are you going to get kind of a roll 8 to 9 to 10 point player a game? And then David Cott, the player we just brought in from Kansas that I just talked about, he works in the same way. He was a 20-point per game guy at NIU, but only averaged 5 last year for Kansas. At times, he was really good for Kansas, but can he give us that oomph that we need if he's a starting guard? Is he going to be able to give us 14 points a game like Jacoby Gillespie gave us last year? Or will Miles Rice be able to give us 14 points a game? And then Andre Mills, we just don't know. He's unproven. Can he give us what Rodney Rice gave us? Can he give us what Celta Miguel gave us? Can he give us that starting Big Ten production to make us one of a top 6 or 7 team in the Big Ten is probably what you need to make the tournament. So that's where I'm kind of saying we brought in guys that you're excited about that I think have a high ceiling in terms of what they can do. And I think a lot of these guys were kind of pulled back by the current team that they were on. But now I kind of just look at it and there is concern about, can these guys actually get it done in terms of being high-end players? And I do want to say this. There is still time in the portal. There is still plenty of time. There's still a lot of really good players. And I know Coach Buzz Williams is working really hard to get some high-end guys. I know he is. But my thing is that you're going to eventually need some oomph in the lineup. And I like Payne, and I like what he does. I like the other kid from Texas A&M, the bigger man. I like Solomon. I like some of the guys that we're bringing in, but there's just not a ton of oomph right now that makes me be like, yeah, we're a team that's going to play well in the Big Ten. Yeah, we're a team that can potentially win the Big Ten. Yeah, we're a tournament team. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but Coach Buzz Williams isn't going to try and play a non-conference schedule that's just mediocre like what Maryland did last year. I thought Maryland's non-conference schedule was worse than mediocre last year. It was pretty bad. We're going to play in some really good teams. We're going to play in some good tournaments. I don't know if you guys saw, but Maryland just joined the tournament for next year, and there's some really good teams in that tournament. There's some really high-end caliber teams, and so it's not like this team is going to be like last year, where last year we kind of we got into our groove. We played some decent teams early, but we didn't have a gauntlet. So it wasn't like we're staring at a record that's not that good. Next year could be different, where we have to come out early. We have to come out with some oomph. And I just don't know how much this team has right now. And it's just going to probably take time, and there's more people that we have to get to, and we'll see exactly what happens. I'm pretty positive now, after thinking about it, after reading some stuff, Rodney Rice ain't coming back. I'm pretty sure about that. It sounds like he's got a bunch of visits lined up. I think one to Villanova, one to Tennessee. I think he has another one in there. He's got some visits. Like I said, every school in the country is going to want a guy like Rodney Rice. That's just the way it is. So we'll see if he joins Jacoby Gillespie at Villanova, but he's not coming back. So we're not going to have a ton of established feeling for our team. And then I also think size is starting to become a concern. I think we got to bring in some bigs. We know the Solomon kid's 6'7", and then our center Pharrell Payne right now, who I think is going to be really good, is around 6'9". I want some more size in the lineup. I want a little bit more girth in the lineup, and I think we need that a little bit. I like where the team's at. I just think we need a little bit more in terms of the quality of guys that we bring in the portal. Like, it's not like, we just brought in Derek Queen and we just brought in Rodney Rice and Gillespie, and now we can kind of level it off and we can go for more mediocre players. I think we brought in our pretty good guys. Now I would love to see us fill it out with one or two really high-end guys that has done it at a really high level at the college level. Now, there's not a billion of those guys out there, so it's tough to get that, but I would like to see the Terps potentially try and do that overall. But I know that's not going to be easy, but I do want to see that. I do have some concern with kind of the current makeup of the team, and it's year one, so it's kind of just going to be what it's going to be, and you kind of just have to let it be. But you also want to win at the end of the day. So we'll see exactly what happens, but those are some of my thoughts right now on the current roster. A Maryland football player enters the portal, a person that I thought could be a key piece of the Maryland team next year. We'll talk about that next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. So, key Maryland player just entered said he is going to plan to enter the transfer portal when it opens next week. And this kid is Braden Wissolowski, Maryland receiver, kind of do-it-all guy for Maryland football, decided to enter the portal, or is going to enter the portal. And I want to start by saying this. I think this is a loss for Maryland football. I do, because I always thought that Wissolowski in his first year would just be kind of our kick returner, punt returner. There wouldn't be too much of a role on the offense for him. But I personally thought that after our going into this year, I really thought we were going to be able to get something going for him, for Braden Wissolowski. Now that he's going to be a junior when we play, I just thought we were going to be able to get something going. I know he didn't do a ton as a sophomore in terms of that role, and freshman was still the kick punt type of guy. But I do think this is a loss now for the Terps. First of all, I really liked his athleticism. I really liked his game. He was kind of a hybrid running back, receiver type, could kind of do both, which I honestly thought was really good for the Terps. You want some of these guys in college football. You want some of these exciting guys that can play in different ways, that can go about doing things in different ways. And that's what Braden Wissolowski was. If you watch his high school tape, his huddle, he did so many different things for his team. He really was one of those athletes on offense. And I thought he could be that way in college as well. I thought we could give him a jet sweep. I thought we could hand it off to him. I thought we could throw screens to him. I thought that he could go out, run routes, which he was a receiver for us. And I thought he had a chance to make an impact this year. We brought in some transfers in the receiver room, so maybe that kind of made him kind of shy away from everything and be like, I don't know about this anymore, because we brought in Jaleel Farouk and we brought in Caleb Webb, and we already have Octavian Smith and Shalik Knott. So maybe he kind of wondered, where do I fit in this wide receiver room with those guys? And then Ryan Manning and Mekhi White are coming up. And so I don't know exactly what the situation is and why he transferred, but I do think that he was a guy that could help us this year. And I do think that he, this loss hurts. I thought that he was going to be a guy that we could just give the ball to in different ways, and he was going to make stuff happen. But at the end of the day, guys do what they're going to do. Guys decide to leave, and you have to address that, and you have to continue to build the roster. I guess that opens up a roster spot for Maryland football to potentially bring somebody in. I don't know where we're at in terms of stuff like that, but I'm not in love. I'll be honest, I'm not in love with the receiving room. I like Jaleel Farouk, but he's coming off injury. Caleb Webb hasn't proved anything at Tennessee. Octavian Smith, I think, is really talented, but hasn't done a ton at Maryland. So I like that group. And then I like Shalik Knott's talent, but he hasn't proved anything. Besides Jaleel Farouk, it's a bunch of guys that really haven't proved a whole lot. I like Ryan Manning, hasn't proved really anything at all. And so that's why I say having more guys that you can kind of trial run, more guys that you can throw out there that potentially can be decent, the better your possibly chances are of finding ones that can make an impact. So I do think this is a loss for Maryland football. I would have liked to see Braden Wissolowski stay for one more year, but at the end of the day, he's going to be a junior. Like, these guys, the time goes quick, and you don't have forever to potentially play. So I don't love our receiver room. I liked Braden Wissolowski, but I understand he's got to do what he's got to do. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.